In the Fuzzy Memories podcast, we celebrate the good, the rad, and the fugly of the 80s and 90s.
We're three latchkey kids who made it out alive.
And in each episode, we break down all the culture that popped, 1 year at a time.
Whether it's the birth of legends...
I'm Lyme disease free today, and I have Whitney Houston and MTV to thank. Or audacious moves.
Imagine also the poor Golden Gate Bridge. You turn 75 and people have a party on you.
Yep. I don't want that.
Or even confusing PSAs.
And the stop, drop, and roll. I mean, I assumed as an adult I would catch on fire weekly.
All the time!
We've got a take that will make you laugh.
We've also got thoughts on all sorts of random phenomena and the most unmitigated of golf.
Why sharks can't be trusted, people can't be trusted, and rivers can't be trusted. It's collusion.
It's of the highest degree.
Uh-huh.
You were counseling me to start my remarks with, first of all, bitch.
Everyone in that room would have snapped to attention.
It's going to be basically coffee lids, shark revenge, and then maybe like Matt Getz. God, we need to do something about him.
Join us every other Wednesday to celebrate the hits, the misses, and the misfits of the weirdest decades.
If I could tell my 14-year-old self from 1990 that I would be eating in a Cheesecake Factory in
Beverly Hills,
I'd be like, we did it. We did it, Joe.
We did it.
Listen and subscribe to Fuzzy Memories on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and your favorite podcast platform. And welcome to Broads and Books, the podcast with one unique theme, 4 handpicked book recommendations, and 2 broads. I'm Erin.
And I'm Amy, and this is episode number 30. It's not me, it's you.
That's probably true. So the theme this week is all about rejection.
Rejection. A part of life, but a big part of publishing.
Very big part of publishing.
Yeah.
So we focused on picks that have rejection stories.
Yes.
Meaning somebody tried to prevent them
from getting out into the world.
And we would be mad.
If we didn't have some of these books in our lives.
Devastation.
Devastation. Absolutely. But first, before we get into that, I wanted to ask you some questions. Erin,
okay.
About rejection.
Oh, so much rejection in my life. Let's dive in.
Erin, have you ever given up on something after maybe some advice or some prodding from someone to give up that thing?
Yes.
What?
When I was in high school, which this is odd because now I do the books for our business, but I was terrible at math, like painfully bad at math. Like I had to go every day and get help from our Algebra 2 teacher, Mr. Truesdale, who was one of the best teachers, honestly. He was so kind and patient until he asked me to come into his office one day. And I said, okay. And I went in there because I thought I was doing the right thing, right? I'm going in every day. I'm getting help. I'm doing the thing.
Being proactive.
And he said, I have a question for you. And I was like, sure. And he's like, do you plan on going to college for any type of math? And I said, you mean like a profession with math? And I said, probably not. And he's like, that's what I figured. And I would encourage your math journey to stop after Algebra 2 because I was a junior. So like the next year I should have taken trigonometry. And he was like, no.
Wow.
Like clearly I had worn out my welcome. Like he was done. He like couldn't do it anymore.
Your math journey. End your math journey. That's a lovely way of saying it.
Yeah.
You know?
And
like you've had a journey. Now it's time to call it.
I'm pretty sure it's just like, you shouldn't. Don't. No.
How can I say this?
Basically, I found out I'm teaching trig next year and I don't want to see your face so it was like a breakup and a rejection and advice to stop. And you know what? Wow. I took it.
Did you?
I said,
you stopped?
Cool. I got no problem not taking a math senior year. Am I going to pass Algebra 2?
But at the same time, it stuck with you as a rejection. So even though you took the advice and everything,
I was a little devastated because
Sure.
I felt like our time meant something more to me than it did to him.
all this extra time meant nothing to you. Oh.
Yeah. Apparently, maybe he was just tired of like reteaching the same lesson that I
Probably.
sat through in class. And he's like, why aren't you? This is getting rough.
Well, I think he sounds like a great teacher.
He was. He was
You
really
know,
good.
he was going to help you, and then at some point he's going to be like, listen, you need to hear some truths.
Not everything's for everyone. And you know what? Maybe we've done a disservice by making it seem like it is. And I have to support that. You're right.
I wish my math teacher had told me that. I think at some point I just realized, this is not my thing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I wish I'd heard that earlier, because then I could have felt, because there's like almost a, like, I have to take this. I have to do good.
Right. Yes.
And if someone tells you you don't have to,
Yeah.
I would have taken that out.
Yeah. I took it.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right. I see you, Mr. Truesdale. And I say,
Mr. Truesdale?
good day. Yeah.
Mr. Truesdale speaks the truth.
Yeah. Good day, sir. I said good day.
Good day.
Yeah. So I quit. Yay.
And now you do the books. So you have ended up in a career that uses mathematics.
I have. But not algebra 2 /
not
trigonometry type
algebra. No.
mathematics.
No one
not
uses that
engineering
shit.
level
No.
mathematics.
No.
I mean, Excel spreadsheets, they add that shit for you.
Absolutely.
Calculators, glorious, wondrous creatures. And I don't have to have that fancy one that uses those.
The graphing calculators.
Yeah, come on.
You don't need that.
My graph never came out right. Like, should it be inverted? No. How did you even have that even happen?
It's not a function of the calculator.
Yeah. What? There's no line. There's literally no line. Well, okay. So speaking of other types of rejections, have you ever written a Dear John letter, Amy?
Well, Erin, let me tell you something.
Oh.
I don't actually write a letter. I just ghost that shit. And you know why? See, I date men and women. Women can handle this shit because we are used to rejection.
Yeah.
Men cannot handle rejection very well.
Yeah.
And there have been times where I have been forthright and then get a semi-stalker in response.
Oh.
So I just say I'm going to ghost. I'm going to pretend I'm dead. Let that person think I'm dead and move on with life.
So you've tried to break up with someone and in turn they decided to be a stalker. Like you tried to say this is not working because XYZ and they were like, I see your XYZ and raise you the rest of the alphabet.
Indeed.
Okay.
There was a guy in college that we were working at a pizza place, Godfather's Pizza. And
How did I never know that you did work at Godfather's
I worked
Pizza?
like 15 jobs in college. And we had a moment, one night of joy and pleasure. And then after that, I was done.
Yeah.
He was not. And I explained why. And then he showed up at my house, multiple times. Got weird. There was a guy in my adulthood in Chicago that after one nice date told me he thought I was the one. And I was like, I don't think I am. So we're going to need to end this. That did not go over well. And there were names called. See, this
You
is
went
what
from
happens.
the one to
Yes.
names?
Yes.
That's a scary.
Names I cannot cannot
That,
repeat.
there's a big
See?
A to B in between. There's huge. That's a
That's
lot.
what I'm
of,
saying.
That's
You
he's got
risk
problems.
ruining the fragile male ego.
Yeah,
If
well,
you are
okay.
forthright.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I ghost on that shit.
Ghost. I think it's the way to go. Clearly, given your history, I think that's probably the best option.
Yes. So rejection. What's another, besides your math journey coming to an end?
Yeah, it was terrifying.
What's
Terrible.
another good rejection story? Either yours or someone else's.
Okay, another time, and this actually relates to writing. So when the summer before my senior year of high school, I went to the University of Iowa, put on like a journalism camp.
You did? Wow. I remember those. Those were a big deal.
Yeah, and I was super pumped because I got in, and I thought, like, oh, I'm a big deal because I was the editor of our school newspaper. My
I
senior
was
year.
too, Erin.
See, so much kinship. God, yeah. So I thought I was awesome. I got in. I was like feeling real good. Okay, this journalism camp's legit. Like
It
it's
is
taught
legit.
by Iowa professors. Like it's the real deal. I came from a class of 53 people, so a little, little fish, big pond now.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So one of the first days we had to do like a newspaper layout of like stories. Okay.
Yes.
And it was like supposed to be a homecoming edition. So they wanted you to say like what would it look like? Try to be creative.
Yes.
So Erin's version of creative was like, I'm going to have like the scores down here with like bullet points and the bullets are going to be like footballs. Like I thought, like that's the height of my creativity at this
For
time.
sure.
Okay.
Yes.
Horrible horrible one-on-one with the journalism professor. Just ripped it to shreds.
He or she?
She. Yeah.
What'd she do?
She was just like, this is very commonplace. Like, you didn't think outside of the box at all. And, I mean, to be fair, all I came up with was football bullets. Like,
yeah, but ouch.
But you know what? It was some hard truth, and I think I needed it. It was awful at the time. I do think I went back to my dorm room and cried a little bit because I was like, wow, I am not prepared for this world. But she was right. And I never used football bullets the next year.
Have you ever used football bullets since?
Never.
Never?
Never.
In all your marketing?
I have honored her to the end. It was hard, though.
Wow.
And I think what was double hard is that I thought she was like the coolest person I'd ever met because she had taught a couple of the classes. And I know this is going to sound really lame, but you have to remember that I went to a Catholic high school and I had like 53 people in my class. Yes. But she had a nose ring and I thought that was like the coolest thing ever. Yeah. And I was like, she is awesome. Like an adult doing that? What? Amazing. And then I was like all excited to have this meeting with her. And then she was like, you're kind of terrible. And I was like, I'm devastated.
The coolest person in the world told me not to use football bullets.
Which, good call. But
ouch.
Yeah, it was hard. It was hard. So.
Did you consider giving yourself a nose ring after that? Just to ease the pain? And make yourself
I thought.
cooler?
I mean, I kept thinking, like, can I pull that off? The answer is no. But at the time, I was like, I really want to try. Maybe redeem myself from these football bullets.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I know that seems like a small rejection story, but it really stuck with me.
Oh, God. No. It's not small at all. Especially when you're younger and you're getting writing feedback and you enjoy writing.
There's a vulnerability there. Yeah,
absolutely. Even when you're an adult.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, this wasn't college. Like, this was my first experience going somewhere and I didn't know anyone there. Like, I didn't go to that camp with anyone.
Yeah.
So I was rooming with someone I didn't know. It was all other people I didn't know. It was intense. Yeah. It was really intense.
Oof. I want to go back in time and give that Erin a hug.
You should. She's still crying somewhere. Probably listening to Tori Amos. Thinking about that nose ring.
Song. Yeah.
Oh, tell me you have a better rejection story.
Well, you know how I was talking about how I reject people? Well, fear not. I have been rejected many times as well. And there was one really good one where we had dated for like a few months. And this was a guy. Imagine that.
Okay.
And I hadn't heard from him from a few days. I'd been kind of thinking this wasn't working out great anyway. So I took that, few days of no response to be like, all right, it's time. So I texted him like, we're done, in a nicer way. But, I said, we're done. I never heard from him. And for a few days after that, I legit thought he was like in a hospital bed somewhere. And I was texting like a dead man and telling him that I'd broken up with him. And that like some relative of this guy in the comatose hospital bed was like, who's this bitch? Or something like that. No, a week later, I saw him pulling out of an intersection. I was like, oh, you're alive.
Oh,
cool.
You're not simultaneously relieved and annoyed.
Yes. But I did not stop ghosting after that experience.
No, it's a wise decision. It's a good decision, I think.
I also felt like, okay, well, I was forthright with this guy and he just disappeared. So that doesn't mean I should do that anymore.
Yeah. Agreed. I like that your rejection stories were like adult relationship stories and mine are like a math teacher and a journalism camp.
Oh, no. I have plenty of those as well. I'm just not ready to talk about them still. I'm 42 and I'm not ready to talk about that.
See, it was vice versa for me. I have a couple breakup stories that I was
you were not ready.
Yeah,
okay.
No, not ready to share those deets. So... But our picks.
Oh my God. Well, I first thought that we could start by talking about we said that rejection is part of a publishing process, but I don't know if you're not a writer, if you just read, you may not understand like how big of a thing this is. I was doing a little research this week, and I think that you and I both know we are writers, and we know there is just rejection involved in like trying to submit things to magazines, and then if you try to submit things to literary agents, tons of rejections. And then if you get one of those and you try to submit to the publishing world, just tons of rejections. It's really hard to get published because it is so subjective. It's so arbitrary. There's sometimes things that are in the decision that are not based on quality. Like maybe this is just, not the good time for it, whatever.
A lot of trends that you can be behind or ahead of, and that can solely decide whether or not something gets picked up, which is ludicrous.
Yes. Yeah. So really, like every every writer that you see in a bookstore has had at least a couple cases of rejection.
Absolutely.
It's just part of the process. But even like your mega stars can have like some crazy stories. Like J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter was rejected by 15 publishers before getting out there. Stephen King, Carrie was his first book. It was rejected by 30 publishers. Even James Patterson, the guy that's like everywhere, all over airports, his first novel was rejected by 31 publishers. Even that Chicken Soup for the Soul crap that you see everywhere, rejected 144 times before publishing. That may be, that may be sound. That's fine. But but seriously, if you're intrigued by this, just do a Google search. There are so many cases of, especially even classic writers, that have gone through this process, that have had rejection after rejection after rejection. Some of your favorites have probably gone through this process. But the novel that I chose, it was written by Marlon James, who is pretty well known today. He has won a lot of awards, including the Booker Prize in 2015 for a novel called A Brief History of 7 Killings. And he just published a book called Black Leopard, Red Wolf, which has been called an African Game of Thrones, which sounds amazing. Wow. I haven't read it yet.
Okay.
I think that could be very cool. But before he could get there, his first novel was rejected 78 times.
78?
78. And get this, he was so distraught that he destroyed it.
Oh,
like
no.
the electronic file of it, he destroyed it. And then later, somehow he had second thoughts and he found a backup copy on a friend's computer. And then that novel got published. So 2 things there. Kudos to that friend. Hopefully he got a good bottle of booze or something out of that. But also the idea of just persisting, because then after that, it did get published. It won a number of awards.
And what was the title of this one?
Oh, shoot. I forget the title of the first one, because my choice was actually the second.
Oh,
book that he
okay.
published.
Sorry. Okay.
But to get to the path of like publishing this first book, which did fairly well. But then the second book, the one that I'm talking about, the Book of Night Women in 2009, it started winning all sorts of awards and accolades. And then just kept going with every novel that he's written. So that book, the one that I'm recommending today, it's set, like I said, it's called The Book of Night Women. It's set in the late 1700s at a plantation in Jamaica. Lilith is born to a slave mother who was raped by her overseer. As she grows up on the plantation, she meets other half-sisters, because this overseer is doing this all around the plantation, having lots of babies. But these all half-sisters, they are the night women who have decided it's enough. They're going to revolt, and they want to make Jamaica a free black state. And it's going to be bloody. And this book gets bloody. And Lilith is great because she's no stranger to violence, but she's not really sure about this rebellion, like how it's going to work. At the same time, she wants none. She refuses to be a good slave anymore. And so she starts killing as well. This is a really dark book, but it is powerful, and you kind of end up tearing through it. It is remarkable in so many ways. And one of those ways is that the main character speaks in a very distinctive voice, a little bit of Jamaican dialect, a little bit of probably her descendants, or her ancestors in Africa, bringing over a little bit of their language. You will also have all sorts of creative curse words to use after this. None that I can repeat.
Well,
today.
Right. Yeah, fair enough.
A lot having to do with female anatomy. Oh. It's wonderful. So read it, for all of those reasons I listed, but also because you'll add to your vocabulary and it'll be glorious. And this could have almost not made it into the world.
See? Yeah. I mean, if he had stuck with that first feeling, there's a good chance he probably wouldn't have tried again, because...
And when you take that further, then you think about how many authors have done that, where they've tried and they've faced all this rejection and they don't keep going, and which can make complete sense, but it's rough.
It is.
It's a rough world out there.
It is.
What's your fiction pick, Erin?
Well, my fiction pick is a book called Kite Runner by Khalid Hosseini.
Yes.
This was rejected 24 times before it was picked up. And he was actually had a separate career. He was an endocrinologist. So when he wrote this, and so he had kind of a different, I think there's a little bit different path there, in that maybe it wasn't as devastating in the sense that all of his hopes and dreams weren't pinned on it. But he said, at some point he was just kind of like, well, I guess this is it. Like, it didn't work. And if you know anything or have heard of this book, later, after it was picked up, became a huge bestseller. Went on, became a movie. He's written subsequent 2 other books after that, which were both phenomenal too. And so the book is about Amir, who is the son of a wealthy Kabul merchant. who is a member of the ruling caste. So they have money, they have power, they're looked upon positively. Obviously, there are certain life advantages that are going to come with being part of that caste. Hassan is his servant, and Amir and Hassan are great friends. I mean, they spend all their time together, even though technically Hassan is the servant to Amir. So he's a member of the impoverished part of society, the despised part. He's not respected. They're not really considered citizens. They don't have the same privileges. They don't have the same rights. So those two being friends in and of itself was very rare, very unique in that time. And that they could maintain that and that they could actually see something in each other was rare. But this is torn apart when Amir decides to abandon his friend, basically because the pressure's too much. He's getting religious pressure, political pressure. It's just easier for him to live his life and not protect this other person. So you see all of that happen, and then the rest of the book takes place when Amir decides to travel back to Afghanistan and try and find this friend and right these wrongs that he feels like he did when he gave up. So you're seeing the second half of their story as well. It's beautifully written. It's heartbreaking. I mean, it's not an easy read. It's like epic is the
haunting.
Word. It's haunting.
Yeah.
It's just, honestly, I can't imagine this book not being published.
Yeah.
I tore through it. Anything that he's written since then, I have bought right away and read. He has a beautiful way of writing, and he does a great job of immersing you in that culture, in that country, in the feelings of that time period. But he also is so good at characters and making you feel so distinctly about each of these boys and making the reader really understand the viewpoint from both. I mean, you don't necessarily feel just all on Hassan's side, and you don't necessarily hate Amir for what he did. I mean, there's a lot of understanding, as most stories, there's two sides, and he does that beautifully. So if you haven't come across it, or maybe you missed it or didn't know anything about it, it is definitely, it's worth a read. Yeah. And I can't even imagine if it wasn't published, it'd just be a travesty.
And isn't it fascinating to think about some of the reasons that these things have been rejected?
Yes.
Like in that case, who knows, but it could have been, the topic matter. It's very dark. It's hard to, read sometimes. It could be the person themselves. We've talked about cases in which the authors, because maybe they're a person of color or because they're, something else, the publishing company is like, no, we don't need this voice right now, or something like that.
Absolutely, yeah. It would be interesting to know what some of the reasons some of the famous books got for rejection. Yes. He didn't specifically go into that, but he said, that he kept trying, but I think not to say he didn't take it personally, because he absolutely did, but I think there was a little bit different of a viewpoint in the sense that he had another career, like I said, but still, 24 times. Yeah. I don't know. 78 times. At some point you would just have to be like, well, this is clearly, it's definitely not me. Yes. It's definitely me, not them. Yeah.
Yes. And I know we've talked a little bit about some of our writing past. Like I've written novels in the past and tried getting them submitted. And after a while, when you get rejected over and over and over, you do start to think it's you. Like, okay, well, I don't have the talent. I don't have the whatever. And so I imagine every one of these authors felt the same before getting there.
And it's an it's an odd thing in our society. I this week when we were prepping, I was trying to think of another industry or another career that has the same kind of barometer. And you don't really, because the reality is, and I'm not taking anything away from agents or editors or publishers, but a lot of times those people themselves aren't specifically writers, or they haven't published their own work. They've gotten into that side of the publishing world where they're basically making edits, So it would be like, watching your favorite talent shows and those judges haven't done anything. Right. They just really enjoy music, but they haven't written any, or they haven't. So there's a weird dynamic there. And when you add a business element to it, when that
getting money involved.
Yeah. We'd like to pretend that all art is for the sake of art, but the reality is, a lot of times it has to do with money or industry or what's going to, bring in revenue.
Yeah. And then that made, like, we did a episode a few weeks ago about small presses. And that often has filled the void where like bigger publishers may look at something with the view of making money and maybe don't see that thing making money. And so then some of these authors go to smaller presses where they feel, like recognized.
Yes.
And,
yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that actually leads me to my other genre pick. It is Her Body and Other Parties by Carmen Maria Machado. This is a short story collection from 2017. And first, let me tell you about the success of this. This has had many, many printings, a shit ton of awards. It's being adapted into an anthology TV series, which has been billed as a sort of feminist Black Mirror, which I am all over.
Yeah.
It sounds amazing. But first, this was rejected by about 30 publishers.
Wow.
Yeah.
30
before it finally, Grey Wolf accepted it. And then it became this huge thing, this like juggernaut.
Yes.
So it just goes to show, like, yeah. This collection, it has stories that are fantasy, magical realism, apocalyptic, funny, sad, dark, light, just all over the place. There's a story about a wife that won't remove a green ribbon from her neck, so her husband, as lovely as he is, he can't let it go. There's a story, this is my favorite, that lists every sexual partner of the narrator and in the process charts the development of a world-ending plague. Like the way that she brings those two things together is absolutely incredible, and it's an amazing story. There's a story about a woman that undergoes a weight loss surgery, and then that sort of soft, shapely part of her that's cut out becomes like a ghost in her house. There's a story about girls disappearing into the seams of clothes. And there's a story that pretends to be an episode summary of Law & Order SVU and quickly goes off the rails into just utter crazy town. So she is an amazing writer. She creates these entire worlds in just pages. She writes about queer women, about Latinx women, about so many other women. And it's something that's stuck with me since I've read it. It's absolutely incredible, and it's astonishing to me. But also kind of makes sense that this was rejected for so long before it finally found a home. And I'm so glad it did.
Yes, me too. And way to go, Grey Wolf. Killing it.
Killing it.
So smart.
Yeah.
I love it. I have to admit that I haven't read that. I have a copy of it, and it's been on my list forever, so I really need to move that to the top because you've talked about it quite a few times,
I have
too.
talked about it. It's one of those, like, I think I remember in our first episode talking about Friday Black and how those stories often use like science fiction or fantasy or something to comment on society in these amazing ways. And I couldn't shake that book, still haven't been able to. This is on the same level. Like, I just loved it so much.
Oh, that's a good thing to draw for readers. Like, if you read Black Friday or Friday Black after Amy recommended it, this is a good
definitely
one. Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, all right. My second pick for this, I decided to go a little bit different direction. I wanted to point out that sometimes even when you have a first novel or you are somewhat popular, you can get rejected on your second novel or your third novel. It doesn't necessarily mean once you get one, you're in.
Yep.
So I picked a short story collection called American Housewife by Helen Ellis. And she wrote her first novel in 1998 called Eating the Cheshire Cat. Earned pretty good reviews, pretty solid sales. But when she went on to write the second book, proved to be a problem because nobody wanted it, didn't like it. Like I said, people often assume that after the first one, it's easy.
That you can do whatever,
But she spent 6 years writing the second novel, never published. Wrote another one after that, still wouldn't get published. Wrote a third one after the first, still didn't get published. Then decided to write a for-hire book, which means that sometimes companies or publishers will come up with their own like outline and just hire someone to fill in kind of the paragraph story part, but you don't really have any rights or say over the plot line or even really character development. So she worked for hire, wrote a for-hire book about teens that turned into cats. Terrible sales. Yeah, terrible.
I kind of want to read that.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Terrible sales. So in the meantime, she had a very supportive husband who actually encouraged her while she was failing to give up her job and just write full time. Like maybe the problem is you're just not devoting enough time to it. Okay.
Oh, that's amazing.
So this is part of the reason I picked this, because this is a little spoiler alert. Remember when I talked about the Noble Hustle, Colson Whitehead's thing? This was his coach. Helen Ellis was his coach.
No.
The gal in the cardigan who no one saw coming because she took a detour on the poker tournament when her writing wasn't getting published.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And she actually won part of the World Series of Poker. But yeah, she's featured in Colson Whitehead's book as the coach.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. So in the meantime, she did that. She was having this great time. She had a standing poker game with friends, and she was kind of like a socialite a little bit, not in the traditional way, but she was a big patron of the arts.
Yeah.
If you're familiar with the publication One's story, she's a big she's really good friends with the editor.
Oh, wow.
And so she did a lot of fundraising for that in the meantime. So on a whim, one day, she started a Twitter called What I Do All Day. And inspired by, this is her first tweet was, inspired by Beyonce, I stallion walk to the toaster. Okay. So when she did that, she was retweeted like a bunch of times and got a bunch of followers. And so she continued with these kind of humorous tweets. And eventually that tweet became the opening line of what would be her new book, American Housewife.
God.
So this book it's a collection of short stories, like I said, but it's also, there's a lot of different formats. Like one's a set of rules for a book club, like what you can and can't do in a book club. One is a set of rules of how to become a patron for the arts. One is an expose of a rigged reality TV show. My favorite is a short story about an struggling author, who takes a sponsorship deal from a company. They're going to sponsor her book. And then she realizes how high the price is. I won't give away the ending, but it is phenomenal. It's hilarious, dark, twisty. It's amazing. Another one of my faves is a set of emails. The story is a set of emails between two women that live in a co-op building and are arguing about the shared space between their two front doors. Yes. And it's passive aggressive at its finest.
Oh God, yeah.
So it's hilarious. It's interesting. Some of the funny parts stay with you. It's really, there's a commentary on a lot of different aspects of womanhood, motherhood, having a career, maybe deciding not to have a career and staying home, being a writer, being a wife, all kinds of different things that she covers in there. And it's all great. And she has such a great sense of humor that you're drawn in by that. But then like a lot of great humorists, she does, she can put a little point in there too. So, and how great that she had this first novel in 1998 and then, she follows it up. Yeah. And she's just cool because she was in the Noble Hustle. So come on. World Series of Poker lady.
Yeah. Not many people after they've experienced rejection do a hard pivot and go towards poker.
Yeah.
I got to respect the hell out of that.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I loved it. It was a fantastic book.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a great story. And you're right. I've heard that happen more often than not, including some of our friends have had that experience of maybe a first book is published and then it becomes increasingly harder to publish after that, which you would think like, oh, you got it made after that. But no.
Right. Yeah. You would think it would be an easy path or you've proven yourself so they'd be willing to, be more accepting of the second, but that's not always the case.
And sometimes it is based on money, on sales figures of that first book or something. Yeah.
Or where the market's trending. Like we said, unfortunately, there's a lot of decisions based on what's popular at that time and not necessarily about what's good writing or what's a good story. So.
I can't believe Teens Turned Into Cats wasn't a huge hit.
Well, it was a for-hire book, so I'm wondering if her hands were tied on some levels. Yeah.
Yeah. But that idea,
I
may steal that idea,
right?
And or have Podcat turn into a teen, opposite her spirit into a teenage girl.
Are you ready to be the mom of a teenage girl?
No, I'm just spitballing ideas. I don't want this to happen.
Okay. Oh, you don't. Okay.
Lord.
All right. I was a little concerned for you for a minute because I was like, I feel like that could talk about rejection.
Oh,
I feel like I'm going to be getting a lot of calls where Podcat stormed out and Amy's calling me like, you're never going to believe what she said.
Oh, that's true because right now she just meows at me and I don't know what she's saying.
Yeah.
If it came out in English and I actually heard all the terrible things she's saying to me.
Yeah.
I don't think I could handle that rejection.
Also, I think that I would have to do something because now it would actually be like verbal threats on my life. I'm not sure I can ignore those as much as I can.
Right.
Meow.
And she would actually tell you she wants to get you into the
like
basement
I am trying to kill you.
I'm trying to get you down here.
That's what's happening.
Like, come on now. Yeah.
Careful when you start your car.
Okay, well, I don't want that to happen, but hey, it can make an interesting story.
It would be a great reality TV show.
Oh, God, yeah. 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 But you know what? I didn't have kids for a reason. So this was all just a thought exercise that I don't want to follow up on. So
I'd probably watch it. I mean,
wait, if Podcat is put into a teenage body, can I just go send her to live with you?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a lot of kids at home.
It'll be fine. She'll blend right in.
Absolutely.
Mason, it can be difficult. So
oh my God,
good
Mason
luck.
and her, I bet they would see a kinship though.
Yeah.
And they'd be
then the
best
tagline
friends.
of the show could be on Nuggets.
On Nuggets.
On Nuggets. Which, if you really want to experience real rejection,
get a 5-year-old in your house. Yeah.
You should.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, I've seen just a glimpse of that with my nephews who are 11 and 7. And when they stay with me, they use every opportunity to be like, Aunt Amy, you're old. Like, well, I realize that, but hearing it from your mouth makes it a lot worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Frequently, he'll bust into the bathroom when I'm taking a shower and just laugh and go, ha 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 ha, your butt. That's not funny. So, where's your father? Because why are you running amok?
Ha ha ha, your butt.
And then just leave, because nothing feels better than that.
God. Yeah. You got to have a real confidence in yourself to do that.
He willingly is very lovey to me, but I think Mike's like so affectionate with Mason that he's like trying to rebel against it now. So Mike will frequently like ask for a hug or, be like, come here, give me a lovey, buddy. And he's like, I don't have time for it. That's what he'll say. And he's 5. So good luck to us. I don't have time for that right now.
Don't have time for it.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, he's a busy kid.
He has so many things going on in that mega mind.
Wow. Well, speaking of precocious kids, maybe.
Yes.
So pop culture wise, I don't know what direction you took, but I went movie.
Okay.
And I do want to say that there are a few movies that I watched so much as a kid that I nearly have them memorized. Like even the sounds, the music, the font on the opening credits. Like I can see that and be like, oh, I know what movie this is. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
It's either sad or glorious, and I'm going to say it's glorious.
It's glorious. Yeah. No,
Thank you.
don't let anyone shame me for that.
Thank
That's
you.
amazing.
Yes.
That's a
one
talent
of those movies.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a few movies, but one of them is Back to the Future. Yeah. And I'm probably not introducing this movie to you because it is a 1980s classic and an all-time classic, but the initial script was rejected 40 times. And here's why. Just like with books, the feedback was all over the place. One production company said time travel doesn't make money. That is proved wrong on many occasions.
I wonder if that person got fired. Don't you wish you could travel back in time now?
One production company said there wasn't enough sex.
Oh.
One, Disney, said there was too much potential sex. And that may be valid because one of the plot points is, of course, Marty McFly going back in time and his mom getting the hots for him and sort of like going at him hard. Right. So there's that potential incest. But it's played for laughs. It's funny. It's great.
Yeah.
But Disney didn't like that.
Oh, yeah. Too much potential sex.
Too much potential sex, which... Okay.
Isn't that true of just anywhere? Like if I walked into... If I walked into Panera right now, isn't there too much potential sex? I mean, there's...
Sex just oozing everywhere.
Well,
potential.
There's people everywhere you go. Like that, I mean... State Fair, too much potential sex.
You know there's a lot of potential sex at the State Fair. Yeah.
Pie Day at Village Inn, too much potential sex.
That should be our go-to, like, rejection for everything. Too much potential sex.
We would come, but too much.
No. Ooh, we can use that to get out of events. I like that. Yeah. Like, sorry, I can't go to that work function. Too much potential sex. Yeah.
We should start a hashtag.
Too much potential sex. And then say blessed right afterwards. But anyway, Back to the Future. I remember seeing this in the theater when I think I was like 8 or 9 and was just immediately in love. Have always been in love since. Watched it on VHS many times. There's Michael J. Fox. He's got his parents that are just run down by life in 1985. He has a wacky doctor friend who's experimenting in time travel with a DeLorean. Marty goes back in time, accidentally, to 1955, fending off terrorists, as one does. He accidentally inserts himself in his parents' meeting and falling in love. His mom gets the hots for him. And, that's it. So we've got George McFly's laugh, which makes me laugh every time. We've got Lorraine calling her son Calvin Klein and trying to make out with him. We've got Doc Brown's hair. We've got Marty's 1980s hairband rendition of Johnny Be Good at the 1955 prom. And also Huey Lewis. Not just his music, which is there. And this came on the radio the other day, The Power of Love, and I was killing it.
Huey
just
Lewis.
Singing that out.
I do really like Huey Lewis.
Yes.
I have to admit.
He's in this movie. He's one of the talent show judges, and he tells Marty he's just too darn loud. And every time I see him, I'm like, oh, it's Huey Lewis.
Huey Lewis.
Huey Lewis. Want a new drug, Huey Lewis.
Yeah.
So this movie has everything, and if you want, I'll just recite it to you. It's fine.
Okay. Perfect. We're going to pause the podcast real quick, and I'm going to listen to Amy's one-man stage play of Back to the Future.
That'll be a bonus material, like a 2-hour,
good.
2-hour just recitation, a monologue, if you will, on Back to the Future.
And then we'll play. Then the other bonus material will be Amy's reaction to the 0 listens to the 2 hours.
Like, who are you people?
Come on, get on board. Well, I went a little bit different direction.
You did?
I did. Mine is a TV show, but I want to preface this before I even get into it that this is weird. And I have a very certain sense of humor. If you like your humor to kind of push the boundaries, sometimes this show, you'll like it. If you don't, or you're easily offended, or even if you're mildly offended by things, this might not be your jam, but it's great. Okay, so my pop culture reference this week is a show called Robot Chicken. And this is a stop animation sketch show.
Yes.
That premiered in February of 2005, and it was created and written and made by Seth Green and Matthew Senrich, who it first appeared as Sweet J Presents on a website called screenblast.com in 2001. Essentially, the idea of the show is it mocks pop culture. It has references to everything, but the idea is that it's stop animation with like old toy figures. So they'll use like Barbies or Stretch Armstrong or G.I. Joes, or they'll make the figure out of claymation. But it's all objects. That's what stop animation is. And they're put in the most hilarious situations you could ever think of. And if you grew up in that era where these toys are popular, it is gold. So first, though, this show was rejected by Comedy Central, Mad TV, Saturday Night Live, because they tried to get it just as like a little short on there, and even Cartoon Network. But Cartoon Network passed it off to Adult Swim, and that's who ended up picking it up. So generally they're about 15-minute episodes. They did do a 30-minute episode in 2007 that was all Star Wars.
Yes, I remember all the news about that.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, they had they get a lot of stars to help them to do the voices, but they actually got George Lucas and Mark Hamill to help them with that one. They were nominated in 2008 for an Emmy for Best Animated Program. Like I said, they have a ton of guest stars that do the voiceovers. There's so many fantastic sketches. It's been on. It's like, I think season 10 is the last season. Some of my favorites, the Barbie sketches, fantastic. They also have done a whole series with McDonald's characters, which one of my favorites is Mayor McCheese, who is running for re-election as a politician. But the Hamburglar is his campaign manager.
Is Grimace in that one?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
No. There's another one where they have the McDonald's characters in a Les Mis redo, and they rewrote the songs. Okay.
Oh.
And Ronald McDonald is the judge who gives the Hamburglar his name for stealing Big Macs, just like the number that Jean Valjean gets. Complete with music. It's amazing. So, first of all, you have got to appreciate the writing and talent, because just where someone comes up with this, incredible. Like I said, some of them really push boundaries. Others, are just hilarious no matter what your humor is. But just know that going in. I love all of it. So I laugh hysterically every time I watch that show.
Amazing.
It is. It's terrific.
And maybe it's inspired other things. Like we've talked about Booksmart, and there's this scenario in Booksmart where there's two Barbies and they're embodying those Barbies. And things happen.
Yes. Yeah. It really, if you played with toys when you were a kid, you're gonna, I mean, it's just so great. There's one where I think it's Stretch Armstrong does a PSA for prostate cancer, like he's older, and I mean, there's just so many they put him in such great situations because you think about it as an adult and these characters, and it's terrific.
That's amazing. I like Seth Green. He's been in a lot of great stuff.
Yeah, and he does a lot of great stuff. And so many, the ones that I love about Barbies often involve Ken, and there's just so many obvious jokes you can take, and he does.
Ken.
Yeah, and it's great.
Fair. Yeah,
it's great.
Whew.
So I'm so glad that it found a home.
Yes.
And that continues to.
I'm so glad that all of these picks that we talked about found a home.
Mm-hmm.
They persisted despite everyone saying no.
Yeah.
They said, guess what? It's not me. It's you. I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's it for our episode.
It is.
But we will be back next Wednesday. And in the meantime, you can head to our website, broadsandbooks.com, to check out all the recommendations we made in this episode.
And also at the website, you will find some amazing bonus material.
God, it's so good.
We've got quizzes. We've got gift guides. We've got road trip stuff. We've got the best of our first 25 episodes. It's amazing.
So good.
Treasure trove of delight.
Little nuggets of delight.
Yes. Golden nuggets.
And after you've gone to our website, after you've listened to this episode, you've seen or you've listened to all our bonus material, and you're like, God, these broads are amazing. We would love it if you could let us know that. Either if you're listening in Apple Podcasts, you can give us a rating and review right there. If you listen in other players, we've learned it's not working so great. Send us an email.
Yeah.
Get in touch with us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We will highlight you.
Yes.
We will tell the world that you love us and we love you.
Exactly.
No rejection there.
No, yeah, exactly. This is a great antidote to this whole episode about rejection. The other thing that you can do through those mediums is give us a theme idea. This one is about rejection. We've done a ton of listener suggested ones, and they are fantastic. We love them. If it's a full idea, if it's a half idea, if it's a genre, send it. We'll do something with it.
God, we'll make it amazing.
We don't barter in rejection.
It's like, where are
I wasn't
you
sure
going?
what word I wanted to use, and I landed on barter for some reason. So
I think in most of our episodes, we end up using words we never do in real life.
never.
Bring it out, though.
I think of one time I've used barter in my real life. Oh, well. There it is.
So like we said, you can get in touch with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or website, too. We're not hiding, and we want to hear from you.
And in the meantime, happy reading.
I'm up again. Same night, another dream. Before trying this recording thing, I didn't remember much of anything of these dreams. I didn't remember much from any of the women. And one night of doing this, and it's broken things open. The dreams they're in me, and they're coming out of me, and
Talk to me. I am not broken. I am the most whole, most real.
cause their despair. I wait for the word. Witch.
Look at the mad woman in her cage. She was a woman with holes inside her. That was the heaviest factor, the final evidence, the heart of the issue.
Somehow, you understand this. You hear me. Wherever you are, whatever this is, you... This isn't a dream journal anymore. It's not. It's just fact. Because now this is some sort of record. What are these dreams? Maybe there's a better question. Who are these women? Weird Woman is a Broads and Books production. All 9 episodes are available January 10th. Listen and subscribe to Weird Woman on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and your favorite podcast platform. That's WYRD Woman, wherever you listen to podcasts.